Welcome to Season 3 of the Predator Podcast. On this podcast, we'll talk about all things predator hunting. If you're a predator hunter or wanting to become one, you're in the right place. Here's your host, Drew Schlim.
All right, guys, we're back for another episode of the Predator Podcast. I got a great guest on today, Jon Petrowske. He is up in northern Minnesota, and I know I've got some Northwoods listeners, and I've heard some questions from some guys in the Northwoods, and honestly, something that I've never predator hunted in the North. So for all you guys in northern Wisconsin, northern Minnesota, the UP, Michigan, upper Michigan, this is going to be for you guys. So I'm excited to talk with Jon. We've been talking a little bit already, and I'm excited to hear all of his knowledge and stories. He's been for a long time, and he's good at it. So, Jon, thanks for coming on with me today.
You bet.
So, give us a little background of you, your predator hunting journey, and when you started, how long you've been doing it, stuff like that.
Well, it's actually been calling coyotes now. This is my 31st year calling coyotes. Started into the coyotes by accident, actually. I was in this military station out in the Black Hills, and a farmer let me deer hunt on his property. And he said, the only condition is you have to shoot every prairie dog and coyote you seen. Well, I seen a coyote and didn't really know what to do. It was too far away, so I squeaked on a blade of grass for a while and didn't see it, gave up. All of a sudden the coyote popped up 50 yards away, and that was my first coyote. And after that, deer hunting got kind of stupid to me. It was all about coyotes. So 31 years later, I'm still doing it.
Right. Yeah, that's awesome. And how long have you been up in northern Minnesota?
My entire life, other than when I was in the military. My family actually settled on Upper Red Lake in 1906. And we've worked as outfitters, bait dealers. My grandfather was actually a warden trapper. I was the state and county trapper for most of my life also, on top of outfitting.
Right.
So spent a lot of time about an hour south of the Canadian border. I've now moved down to Bemidji, retired from the outfitting stuff, and now I just mow grass and hunt coyotes.
That's a good life to live. Two fun
It works
things
out.
to do.
Make tall grass short and knock down coyotes.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, so you got to deal with deep snow and cold and all that good fun stuff up there. And yeah, pretty unique. I think I was thinking about this leading into this. That northern part of Wisconsin, northern Minnesota, the UP, that kind of stuff is pretty unique in the terms of predator hunting in the predator world. So let's kind of dive into, your kind of overall strategy, your plan of attack. You said you're going to hunt your way home tonight. So what are you looking for? And how are you going to attack this huge country and timber country and just all the country up there?
Well, the main thing, like now this time of year in the breeding season, these coyotes are very territorial, very boundary orientated. So I have actually was out last night locating, and around here we locate. You almost have to, just because you're not going to pull coyotes very far. Say out west, you could pull a coyote, 800, 900 yards, whatever they figure. Here, especially during the breeding season, they are not leaving their areas. So I've already located. I'm going to come back and then play the wind and work these coyotes backwards from what most people do. So most people would say, hey, I'm going to sit on the edge of this field and call the coyotes out in the field. Well, what we do is we will get into the area located, play the wind, and we will actually find cover in the field, whether it's a piece of farm equipment, a hay bale, something, and we'll sit in the field and catch them coming around the edge or coming down the roads. So it's kind of it's a little bit backwards from how everybody else kind of does it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And one thing that comes to mind too, just while you're saying that, I feel like during breeding season, here down where I'm at, southern Wisconsin, I feel like during this peak kind of breeding time, I feel like they don't travel too far here either. But occasionally, you see that one that comes piling, or the pair that comes piling a long ways. But to me, it seems like this time of year, they certainly are more apt to sit there and howl and not come in, unless
Yeah.
you're in that bubble, seems like. But uh, does the deep snow factor into how far they'll travel?
Oh, definitely. Oh, that's we play that in all the time. Especially now it's been warmer, so the snow got soft. Granted, this year we don't have a lot of snow, but you've got to consider the deer trails, cow paths, snowmobile trails, any hardpack they can run on. Because they'll use those as travel corridors,
Yep.
when the snow gets soft. When the snow is hard, they'll run anywhere on top of it. When the
Right.
snow gets soft, yep, you really have to pay attention to your travel routes. But unfortunately, when you do that, you're also running into a lot of timber wolves, but also use those same travel routes.
What's a lot of what?
Timber wolves,
Oh, Tim rules.
yeah,
Okay.
they'll use those same travel routes. So you're kind of loading yourself up for an ambush if you play that a little bit too hard. But yeah, the deep
Yeah.
snow is a huge factor, and we carry snowshoes with everywhere. I've actually got a side by side with tracks on it, all set up just for coyote hunting because we are dealing with waist deep snow pretty often.
Right. Yeah, I can imagine that's not a lot of fun.
No.
How far like are you walking a ways to get back into a lot of places? I know um everyone has their opinion about that, but what's your kind of your strategy up there?
Well, a lot of it's going to depend on what I know about that area. And what we're seeing a lot of now is a lot of farm kids are getting thermals for Christmas and getting a lot of guys into it. And of course, these guys are hunting the easy spots.
Yep.
So if I notice someone else in the area, yes, I'm going to go in half mile at least. Just get away from the stands that people have already pounded on, and get back in and get a little bit deeper. And of course, with our locating that we do, we usually know about where these coyotes are penned up at. So
Right.
we want to get in their bubble, especially this time of the year. So you pretty much got to get on top of them in this country. Um, you know, we kind of try to make a rule. We try to get within 400 yards of where we think they are where they're headed to.
Right.
So it's
That makes sense.
a lot of locating that the pre-locating really plays a huge part in how we set up and how we approach spots.
Right. Yeah, I could see that. And are you um eh, as you is there a certain time like do you want to howl them right at dark? Do you want to locate them just so you like have an idea of where they are, or do they just in general like even throughout the course of the night they're not traveling overly far?
It's seasonal now in September, October, November, that time frame.
Yeah.
Locating is tough because they're moving around a lot. The
Right.
pups are running around. They don't have a lot of going here and there, but when I locate, I usually wait till until dark. Wait until dark and basically do the every half mile stop and drop, I call it. I mean, I've actually gotten so bad. I have a Fox Pro X Wave with the two speakers. I
Yep.
actually I actually bungee corded to the roof of my truck and just drive along with the windows open, so I have to keep getting in and out.
That's actually pretty smart. I
Yeah, I just bungee corded to the roof, and I got the remote. I roll the windows down and hit the collar, and
That's funny. Yeah, I don't blame you at all either, especially if you're doing it that much. I mean, that would be nice. There's nothing worse. I've seen the call go bouncing down the road when you forget to take it off or whatever.
I
So
actually backed over an X24 about 2 months ago.
nice.
Yeah, yeah. Fox Pro was great though. They're like, "Hey, send it to us. We'll fix it up." I'm like, "There isn't anything left." I pretty
Yikes.
well crushed it. It'll happen.
Yeah, that does happen. Yeah. Okay, so you got to deal with the snow. You're
Yep.
locating them. You're gonna snowshoe back into somewhere maybe.
Mhm.
What's your? Do you have a preference? Do you try to call with a crosswind with the wind in your face?
Always,
How do you?
always a crosswind. That's one thing about these coyotes in this heavy cover. we call it the ABC, always be circling, because the only time you will see coyotes come dead running in this area is pups in the fall, because they're just kind of boneheads and they just don't know any better and they get excited and they're competition with their siblings. But after that, it's always a crosswind for us. And we'll call, say we got a wind going west to east, we'll call pointing west, but we're watching east
Yep. That makes
because
sense.
they're always going to circle. And if we
Yep.
try to get it so we can get a shot at them circling before they get our wind,
Yep.
and like say a field, say you're sitting in a field, you got a small, 4 or 5 acre little hay field in the middle of the woods.
Yep.
You got roads coming off that or fence lines. So we'll set where we'll catch them coming around the edge of the field trying to circle our wind. That makes
Yep.
sense,
Yeah, it
There's
makes sense to
always a
me
crosswind.
because I hunt with I usually try to use the wind and a crosswind or kind of quartering crosswind a lot. So I definitely understand what you're saying. I think a lot of people just call with the wind in their face, which, I think is can work. And I think you're right about the cover too. I've noticed that I've taken or I've it seems like the more open it is, the more coyotes are going to take the visual advantage. And it
Yep.
seems like the less open it is, they're going to take the more wind advantage. So that's just my observation from the stuff I've hunted and seen from different places.
Yeah, we'll see, like, a lot of times we'll be sitting on a rock pile in a field watching the tree line, and you'll see these coyotes picking. And like the thermals at night, you'll get little quick glimpses of them, and
Yeah,
you'll watch them just throwing their nose, throwing their nose, throwing their nose, constantly putting their nose. And then, they're using the wind when they're in cover more than anything. I actually
yeah,
think their visual is at night next to nothing. I really
right.
think, other than navigating, they're using their nose and their ears 100%.
Yeah, yeah. I think that is certainly important. Um, yeah. So you got set up, and then do you have kind of a ritual sound sequences that you kind of do throughout the year?
Yeah, I do. I have a pretty ritual sound sequence, unless it's bobcat season.
Right,
Because our cat, we're in heavy cover all the time. So during cat season, we just keep it a little more low key. But basically, the fall, I'll say fall until breeding season, is pretty basic. We'll give out that one lone chirpy. We'll call it a chirpy howl or a real yippy, something that sounds extremely coyote like. Just one little quick, very short howl, and then we'll go into prey distress for at least 6 to 10 minutes of different prey distresses. Slowly starting quiet, bringing the sound up. Then we give it a pause, and then either we'll hit a really loud, aggressive howl to try to get a response to see if they are paying attention to us, if we haven't seen nothing
right,
by then. And then we'll go into the pups and the fights and this and that as we taper down. Now, during bobcat season, we basically, it's all birds, woodpeckers, rodents, rabbits. We keep it pretty low key. We'll sit for 40 minutes for cats.
right,
And then when we find out there's no cat coming in, then we'll do a couple coyote howls to try to save the stand. And that's usually when you see the cat stand up and book the other way
right. Yeah,
that you didn't see. And then of course
yeah,
breeding season, I get stupid aggressive with it. I start off breeding season like right now. I'll start off with, well, actually I shouldn't say it. I'll start off with like the new MFK squeaky squeaky, just in case something's really close. I'll give
yep,
that 3-4 minutes. If nothing, then I'll start hitting the breeding howls, like the little bee howls and MFK stuff, and then get right into the female fights. So I mean
yep,
it's seasonal, but it's basically get their attention, distress, and then start fighting. So
yep. That
and
makes sense
staying
to
away
me.
from and stay away from we have to stay away from anything that's long and drawn out, just because
Yep.
it's the rules.
Yep. So that's what I was just gonna say. When you made the comment about something that sounds like 100% a coyote, because they are dealing with the Timberwolves up there. So
Yeah.
you have to be a little bit more selective and careful with your sound sequence
Mhm.
because you will call in wolves.
Yeah, and it really it'll kill you. It'll kill a set in a second. Say you pull out a howl that's got a wolf sound, you get a timber wolf response. Well, a lot's just happened then. Well, once you've made a wolf sound, so the coyotes, of course, they don't want anything to do with that area. And then a lot of times the wolves will fire up. And once the wolves start howling back, now you've wiped that whole area. Every coyote, I don't care. As soon as you get a timber wolf pack howling, those coyotes are done. You won't hear
Yeah.
a peep out of those coyotes till the next night.
So are
So
you packing up and leaving then
you
if that
just back up
happens?
and leave. As soon as you
Yeah.
hear a timber wolf, pack up and leave. And there's also a safety factor to that because now you could possibly call in a timber wolf.
Right.
And of course, you don't want to mess with that whole game of is that a wolf? Is that a coyote? Is that a wolf? Is that a coyote? Well, let me see. 5 years in jail, $25,000 fine. I'm just gonna leave.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense to me. Yeah, that's different. I know I've
Mhm.
had questions from guys in northern Wisconsin that struggled with and maybe that's what it is. I know I'm trying to recall some of the questions that I've gotten over the years, but I know that they've said like they had them howl and they're close and then they never
Yep.
show up. Well, I'm curious if they're playing more long drawn out sounds in
Well, northern
in
Wisconsin,
response.
UP, northern Minnesota, even a few of the guys now in Idaho, where they got some wolves running around, are starting to see it too. You
Mm.
play these long drawn out sounds, and sometimes the coyotes will respond, and then that's it. They're done. But if the wolves respond, these guys too, you've just basically killed that whole area.
Yeah.
So
I
that's
mean,
where,
wolves do that with a lot
yeah,
of things. I mean, it's just like when you elk hunt in the West, if there's wolves in an area, you can bet you aren't going to hear an elk bugle.
yeah. I mean, if you're dinner, you're not going to notice that you're dinner.
Yeah, right. So, what are some howls and things that you like to play? Beings that just to give some guys that maybe
Oh,
are struggling with this. So what are some sounds that you play that you
yeah. I
like?
actually, a lot of them are grab one of the remotes here. I got remotes all over the place. A lot of them are the coyote yip howls. The uh, MFK has a lot of the little bee sounds, because Tori Cook, he names all of his coyotes, and then
Yep.
that's what they name. Like the little bees, she's really whiny. She seems like she's really sharp. And then a lot of excited. Like if I go into my favorite howls here, um, like yodel howls, sexy little bee, boo pear, burrhead half grown, and then just young coyote howl. You know, anything, any howl that's got that a lot of bark to it. Because timberwolves will howl with maybe a little yipping at the end, where coyotes always have that yip 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 yip, yip, that bark into
Yeah.
it. So, like answer back howls.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. I don't think I've ever heard wolf howls or like in person ever heard timber wolves
Oh,
howl. So,
so like, I mean, back referring to the MFK library, just because I know it. So he has a coyote that he recorded named Juice,
yep.
and can't use. Now, a lot of guys in other areas there's not wolves. That's one of their go-to howls.
Yeah.
I cannot use any of the Juice howls. They're just too drawn out for me. But
Yeah.
and so yeah, you gotta sit and pre-listen to your sounds, and you got to watch out with even the locator calls too. You get like some of the old locator calls on both like the Fox Pro library, and those are really drony sounds.
Right.
And
Yeah.
like in a lot of the Lucky Duck sounds, I mean Lucky Duck's a great call. Rick Plet's got some great sounds, but a lot of those are really long, drawn out howls.
Yeah.
It's tough to pick through that library.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Mhm.
Uh how much does cold temps affect your hunting and how much does it affect the coyotes?
The coyotes, it actually works out pretty good because we just actually realized this after 30 years of coyote hunting. You think I would know better? but we were having thermal troubles the other day. And we're, hey, what's going on? What's going on? So I email IRA. I'm like, hey, my scope's getting weird and it's like taking really long to. They're like, well, what's the temperature? And I said, well, it's 4 below. And like, yeah, you're not supposed to run that past 15 degrees. And I looked at the book, sure enough. So when we get super cold, our coyotes will actually run during the day. They just when it's a little bit warmer, they'll run. They'll start seeing them during the day. So we'll just switch to day hunt.
Yeah.
And we'll get the shotguns out then, and we get right down in it. We'll go down the cedar bottoms, the creek bottoms. So when it's super cold, we just switch to day hunting and shotguns, which is a blast.
Right.
That's my favorite. That is my favorite. Is the shotgun 20-yard opening in front of you. Finger on the safety. God, I hope it goes to the call and doesn't bite my foot. Type of hunting.
Yeah. Right. No, I totally agree with that. You hear, always hear people say, "Oh, the colder the better." They're cold, they're hungry, stuff like that. But I feel the same way. I think that it's all about like it's all relative. Like if it was -10 for
Yeah.
5 days, maybe on the third, fourth day, I think you might be able to call them in at night.
Yeah.
But I think like if it's 20 degrees today and it's -5 tomorrow, tomorrow's going to be poor. But, it's just like it seems like that quick change, the shock is what uh to me it sends them kind of quiet for a day or two. And
Yeah.
then as things stable out, they will be better in my opinion. But and I agree with you. That's something that I learned when I was pretty young. We always used to go like it was 20 below and we were going out hammering it like
Mm-hmm.
at night and not
Yep.
seeing anything. Like if we killed one, it was good. Like we did good on all those nights we went. And then I don't know how or why or what, but I've told this story before. My dad talked to some guy that worked at Fox Pro or something along those lines, and he said like, "Hey, when it's that cold, you're better off hunting during the daytime. Like they're just more active during the day and whatever."
Yep.
And we pretty much have done that ever since. And I believe that is very, very true from my experience. I also see it. I run trail cameras still, and I see it on my trail cameras. Like we had -20 and stuff like last week and stuff like I'm sure you probably did too up there. But
Oh, it was ridiculous. We had almost 3 weeks of it.
yeah, a couple weeks of real cold, and I saw it all. I saw it on my trail cameras. Nothing over the nights, and then all of a sudden, 9 a.m. sun's blaring, they're out.
Yep.
And we started seeing them a little bit more. We'd drive around and be able to glass them up from a long ways away. We're obviously in more open country, so we can see a little bit,
Mhm.
but
Yeah, we don't
and
have that opportunity.
yeah, so I've noticed it just from my experience, but I do think the colder the better could be possible. Could be a thing for day hunting though. Like if
Oh,
you're a day
definitely.
I don't know
Um,
what your thoughts are on that. You got
well,
a lot
we
more
see a couple
experience.
things. Well, in fact, even I have a conservation officer, it's a friend of mine, and I had to laugh when it gets super cold. I start getting pictures of coyotes in the daytime that are making people mad.
Yeah,
It's like I got in the war. It's like you got to get these coyotes. They're driving me nuts. They're freaking out my chickens. And
yep,
farmers will start sending me all these. Hey, I was out, feeding cows, and there was a coyote. You always see that when it gets colder. So we'll start day hunting then. But what I could say, the best advice I could give for that when it's super cold, is get away from the fields, get away from the ridges, go find those swamps, go find cattails, go find slough grass adjacent, and that's where those coyotes are going to be during the day or at night. They're going to bed up in those cattails. They'll burrow right into the cattail wads, and that's where they'll sleep. That's for winter, and it's just amazing. We've gone on to little frozen lakes. They're surrounded by cattails, and as soon as that sun comes up, all of a sudden you just got coyotes coming out of the cattails everywhere. So
right.
I mean, they're cold. They
Yeah,
want to warm up too.
right. Yeah, I agree. I agree for sure. Um, I one of your notes too was about you tend to start out very soft and work
Yeah,
your volume up. And that's just in general, right? Like you do that. With
everywhere.
you do that with your howls too? Like, are you trying not to blast them out with howls?
Yeah.
Or
Yep. If I am starting with a howl, like during the breeding season, I'm not starting with prey distress. Yes, I'll start low. Just because you can take everything that the Western hunter does and basically cut it down to 20%. From the area you're calling to the amount of sound volume, everything, just cut it 20 down to 20%. Because especially if you've pre-located, you're getting to this heavy timber. If you're doing things right, you should be within 100 to 150 yards of those coyotes when you start. If you've done your math right, well, they can hear a mouse at 100 yards away.
right.
So you want to start them slow just to kind of get those close ones looking, and then we kind of call it clearing the area. Once we've given that a few minutes, nothing showed up. Like, okay, they're not in our bubble. We got to bring them in from somewhere else, and we amp up the call.
Yep.
So,
That
and we
makes
got to
sense.
watch for echo. I know this is it's a lot of debate on this about the echo because like Jeff Nemich said, he says a coyote doesn't howl quieter because he's echoing, in real life. But
Yeah.
I feel that when you start really hammering that call and echoing off the timber, it's just not effective. It seems like the coyotes just don't pick up that vibe. They don't like it. So we got to make
Yeah.
sure that call isn't echoing real hard.
Yep. I've had that. I had somebody ask me that question once, and I'm like, I guess I always, if I get a real bad echo, I'll try to turn the volume down a little bit. Not for any, but my reasoning behind it was not like anything crazy other than I just play what sounds good to me. Like, if it sounds good to my ear, I'm good with it. But if I start blasting it and it's bouncing back and it's echoing, I don't like the way it sounds.
Yeah.
So I'll just turn it down, just to try to avoid it a little bit. But yeah, I did have that question one time, so it's funny you brought that up.
Well, I think it doubles your sound like blurry vision. So now you've got the main going out, and you got it's banging off, so it's kind of overloading that sound. And then
Right.
I had actually a weird deal happen last year. We were behind a couple steel pole sheds, and we were
Yep.
off the side about 70 yards, and we had the collar pointing, and two coyotes come over the hill in a field, which for us, coyotes coming through the field, we're like, oh, this is so cool. We can see them coming. And it's like, oh,
Right.
we're in Kansas, and
Yep.
all of a sudden I turned up the call, and they stopped, lifted their head, and they started running right towards the pole sheds. And I'm like,
Oh,
what's
because the
going
sound was
on?
bouncing off the
It
pole
was
shed.
bouncing off the shed. I turned the call down, went to some squeaky sounds, then they stopped again, then turned and started coming back towards us. And I'm like, yeah, they were heading towards the echo.
Huh.
So
Yeah,
there's
that's
that too.
interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I
Yeah, I
guess
had
it.
coyotes in the open field. I didn't know what to do. I panicked.
That's funny. Um, okay, so once you get those cold temps, the deep snow, what are some key factors of the hunts? And what are you looking for? Where are you finding coyotes other than, I know you mentioned cattails and stuff. Is there anything else that you key in on?
Cows. Got to find the cows. In this environment up here, I mean, granted, they have a ton of prey. We've got rabbits, squirrel. I mean, everything. You name it, it's crawling around here. But the trouble is,
Yep.
snow gets deep, hard for them to catch them. So you're always going to see coyotes when it gets deep snow. They're going to be on livestock. So we're really going to look for livestock, and it could be any type of livestock, as long as there's a feed out there and the rodents are in there eating the feed, or deer yards are another one. So you've got an area in the wintertime you're just seeing a ton of deer. The deer are yarded up. We'll target those areas, but then we'll look for the beds. The bedding area, the cattails, the cedar bottoms. Places where these coyotes will fight out the cold in the deep snow.
Yep.
Because a lot of them will get into like the cedar bottoms because the snow is not as deep under the cedar trees.
Yeah.
So that's it's a lot of onyx work. It really is.
Yeah.
It's a lot of onyx. So we'll locate, get a rough area idea where they're at, and we go look at the onyx the map and say, okay, well, here's a river bottom, here's a swamp, so these coyotes are feeding by these cows and they're sleeping here. So let's get in the middle. Let's get in the hallway and try to see if we can bring them in.
Yeah. Makes sense to me. Do you run into a whole lot of hunting pressure up there, or what's that
It
like for you?
it's definitely changing. So Minnesota only went legal thermal, I don't know, it was 5, 6 years ago, whatever, night hunting. So it was all day hunting. And nobody was doing it up here. I mean, I'd go to farms, I asked go coyote hunt, and they looked at me like I was on drugs. I'm like,
Yeah.
well, we have deer and geese. I'm like, I don't care, but I want to shoot coyotes. Like, okay, knock yourself out and bang. And
Right.
I had permission all over. Well, then once thermal started, it got easier. I mean, I don't hate saying it got easier, but it really did.
Yeah.
And what I'm seeing, it's great that a lot of people are joining the sport. But what I'm seeing is you're getting a lot of farmer kids, cousins, kind
Yep.
of guys that are really into fads, getting these really low end thermals and calls, and they're not going through the work of learning. And
Yep.
there's so many things out here right now. I mean, from all these podcasts and like Nemech's School and all these things where you can learn so much.
Yep.
They're burning up a lot of the property. You know, you go to these farms and you're seeing, hey, Uncle Joey bought this kid a scope, so he's going to hunt here now.
Yep.
So you get a lot of that. So we're losing a lot of land, a lot of hunting to other places. So what we're doing is we're hunting the public within adjacent to those areas. So, and the new pressure wall wants to hunt out west because
Yep.
they watch the videos and everything that's filmed is out west or even southern Minnesota, you know, because southern Minnesota is prairie.
Yep.
But they want to hunt everything Western style, you know, sit in the corner, watch the field, try to howl at these coyotes, get them to come running in. And so what we've started doing now is we're hunting the heavy timber. You know, we'll get in the logging roads alongside, we'll get in the cedar bottoms where we can see under the cedar trees and kind of combated the pressure that way. So
Yeah. Yep. That makes sense to me. Same. Yeah. Same thing everywhere. I think, it's just finding ways to be creative and just hunt around it basically
yep.
is what I
Yeah.
think of it as. And, I usually, what I've noticed is a lot of guys that are getting into it are kind of like, these guys that are buying a thermal, a lot of them are buying it just to hunt a few times. I
Yeah.
mean, some of them
Yep.
just are looking for a little something to do here and there when they're bored
Mm-hmm.
or whatever. And I
Off season.
honestly doesn't bother me at all. Doesn't because I mean, realistically, the number of people, I help people get into thermal all the time,
Mm-hmm.
weekly. So
Yeah, I mean you're promoting it right here.
right, and I'm promoting it.
Yeah.
So uh I just know I just what I see is most of the people that buy thermal are not going out and hammering it like we are. Like
No.
uh of all the thermals I sell to people and help people get into and whatever, I just rarely see people just out there knocking over, bunches of coyotes. Normally it's just they maybe have some extra money, extra time. They get laid off in the winter, want something to do. Some people just like to leisure hunt, and if they get some, great. If they don't get any, they probably don't care either. And so I think that's a big part of it. And
Mhm.
it doesn't bother me at all, but I just keep telling landowners like, hey, if you want them killed, I'll kill them. But if you just want them hunted, then let anybody you want in here. But if you want them killed, I'll kill them.
And we see that too. And you know what's been kind of great is a lot of like in our area, you know, it's not super popular. I mean, granted,
Yeah,
there's probably 5 times the guys doing it now last year, but most of us all know each other. You know,
yeah,
these young guys coming up. So we talk, I'm like, hey, I'm hunting this property, you're hunting that property. Oh, okay. So we kind of all, oh, we'll stay out of there, we'll stay out of there. Okay. Or we'd even would text each other. Hey, I'm gonna be over at JoJo's farm. You gonna be over in Tommy's? Oh yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, we'll stay west, you stay east. We don't call each other.
yeah,
All that. But then of course you'll get a few guys. There's always a couple bad apples that go in there and try to snipe spots and
yep,
create drama. And we're dealing with some of that up here. But for the most part, everybody gets along. And a lot of it though, like you said, it's the farmer,
yep,
who's got cattle and he's lost a couple calves. So he buys his boy a thermal and says, here you go make yourself useful.
right,
So the kid's out there, he's hunting the family farm, nothing more. And
Yep.
it was great. Those guys will reach out to me, oh, he's like, okay, I tried this 4 times in a row and it didn't
Yep.
work. What do I need to do? And
I
so
tried
I'll
this.
go out with them, which is
I
great because I'll get to hunt their place, once or twice with them, which is kind of
yeah.
fun. And then kind of get them going and teach them the ins and outs of it. And then you can also teach them the ethics of it,
And the
which I
right
really
way to
like.
do it. Yeah.
Yeah, you can say, hey, if you're going to want to hunt over here, make sure nobody's calling. If you hear lightning jack, well, that's another hunter.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
I actually answered a guy. We don't, of course, want to elk in northern Minnesota, or we do, but not in this area. They had another hunter that we got into a calling battle, and I could tell it was a lucky duck and this and that. So I fooled him. I broke out the elk sounds. I broke out some geese.
That's funny.
Yeah, we got a little calling war, but yeah. So there is pressure growing, but I think the sport can handle it, especially coyotes.
Yeah.
Then when it's all done and said, there's gonna be nothing but coyotes and cockroaches left, anyways.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're right. Probably wolves too, unfortunately. But
Oh, I tell you what, they sure seem to be resilient.
yeah,
I
agreed.
just I wonder what the true count in Minnesota is. You know, it's
Uh,
crazy.
yeah, I would imagine it's high.
Well, my father has I want to say it's like he was a farmer, and he's retired now, but he's got like a 240-acre habitat deal
Yep.
for deer. That's what he does. Retirement. He builds deer plots and he just loves his
Yep.
deer hunting. He had 3 deer there most of the time, which is ridiculous. I mean, normally it was 50, 60 in a field every night, but he had timber wolves of different variety every single day and night for 2 months straight.
Yikes.
And it's just like, well, geez, here's your deer hunt. The only deer you're finding in this area are the real good deer populations, especially up around Up Red Lake area, is right in the farmyards.
Yep.
They're basically hiding from the wolves right in the farmyards.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that's tough.
Hmm.
Yeah, interesting. It's a whole new set of challenges. I got to think that too. The cold weather and the deep snow has got to keep some of the pressure down.
Oh yeah, yeah. We yeah we For the last 2 years we've had light snow, and I've told these new guys, I said, well, you guys don't realize how good you've got it right now.
Yeah.
I said we've had deals where we've shot a coyote. We're like, okay, how are we going to get that coyote?
Yeah.
I mean, we've been busted through waist deep snow, and yeah.
Yeah. There was I saw I have a group private group on Facebook that we people post stuff in coyote hunting stuff, whatever, and saw a guy posted the other day a picture from Canada, and it was a coyote trail camera picture, and all you could see was like its nose, and like it was completely buried in the snow basically. It was pretty funny, but hopefully I haven't seen snow that like I
Oh,
remember when I was maybe 12-ish. So I mean 20 years ago, almost 20 years ago now, I remember snow getting real deep like that, but I
mhm.
mean we haven't we had 6-8 inches of snow here for the last couple weeks, and it's gonna be gone tomorrow. So
Well, there is a trick to dealing with that. And it was a trick we used to use as a state trapper. And then when Minnesota or the states had control of the timber wolves, I was actually the state wolf trapper, or one of the many, many state wolf trappers during that time. And with you get that deep snow, what you can do is actually we call it pre-running. So you go to your good spots, your areas that you want to hunt with coyotes with a snowmobile or a track bring a tracks, and basically just make trails
yep.
and kind of make some infrastructure for them to run on. So you go in, run around, let it sit for a week. You got these hard pack trails, then go back and call it, and then these coyotes will come cruising down those hard pack trails.
Yep. I've seen
There,
that before. I
yeah, there's that
remember.
option, which is a lot of work, but I mean, when you got that much snow, you just got to do what you can do to make it work.
Yeah, and we got snowmobile trails here. We used to just set up on the snowmobile
Oh
trails, and
god,
you'd
yeah.
come right down the snowmobile trail.
Hmm. Yeah, bobcats too. For some reason, bobcats just love snowmobile trails.
Hmm.
So yeah, we'll see a lot of cats on the snowmobile trails.
Interesting.
Snowmobile trails, and then logging, of course, is huge. You got to really pay attention where they're logging around here because the logging roads, they'll use those to no end.
Right. Yeah. Are you using decoys much at all or ever?
Mhm. Oh, I love during the day. I decoy all the time.
Yep.
I actually got. I actually don't have my collar. It's out in the truck. I actually covered my entire X24 decoy in fur.
That's what you sent me the other day, right?
I think I did.
Yeah.
I was working it over, covered it in
Yeah.
fur. People think I'm ridiculous. Fox Pro was not impressed when I sent the last one in for repairs. Had fur hot glued to it, but yeah, I use a decoy all the time just because we're in such tight quarters.
Yeah.
I want to get sound and sight off of me. I want them to focus on that because they'll catch me moving. I mean, I'm 6 foot, 230 pounds. I'm a big jerky blob of mess moving around. They can pick off pretty easy. I don't hide well. So
Yeah.
so I love the decoy, not so much as an attractant, but as a diversion. Just
Yeah.
to get your eyes and ears locked on something that's away from me.
Yeah. That makes sense to me. I
Mhm.
would totally agree with that.
But you got to be quick.
Yeah.
If you're using a decoy, you can't stop them. Once they've got their locked in on that, it's full throttle.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's when the shotgun comes in handy.
That's yeah. You better be pointing the right direction because like out west and even other places, you can see them coming for a while.
Yep.
I mean, there's a lot of times here where we're like, oh, there's its head looking at us between two ash trees. Bang, that's our shot.
Right.
So we got to be quick. And then, of course, you got to keep your eyes out for owls. When you have a
Yeah. So they
furry
don't.
decoy and a furry,
Yep.
yeah, I've lost some stuffed owls.
I lost one. I've lost in my hunting days. I've lost one. I had the owl swoop down and pull the spinner right out of my lucky duck and never got it back.
Well, we had back. This is back years ago when they had I can't remember the
Oh yeah,
quiver quitter with the
that
stand that would
rabbit.
rotate.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were sitting there. It was me and my old warden buddy, Kyle, and we're hunting cow hunting during the day, and all of a sudden he's filming, and all of a sudden there's just a streak comes out of the sky and gone. We didn't even know what happened. It happened so fast. Like it was a hawk, peregrine falcon. I mean, that was just the craziest thing we were seeing. Granted, we lost the whole skin off of our critter, but yeah, I actually had a peregrine falcon grab one once. That was pretty cool.
Wow,
Mm-hmm.
that's interesting.
Yeah, it was very interesting. But yeah, decoys are a big part of my operation.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah. It's definitely a cool style of hunting. I'd love to come up there and hunt
Yeah,
them someday.
it's uh, it's quick. It's close and it's quick and quiet. Stealth plays a big part in it too.
Yeah,
You got
because
to
getting
really
in
watch
tight on
your.
them with loud snow and stuff can be a
Oh,
challenge too.
the worst I had. I just absolutely hate the loud snow.
Yeah.
We actually file our boots. I know it sounds
Really.
absolutely ridiculous, but our boots, we grind off the sharp edges so you don't get that snap. I mean, as
Huh.
people laugh, we actually take a grinder to our boots and the sharp edges, we grind them at a 45 and round them. So when you walk in that snow, you don't cut it, don't break it as much. So
Oh,
it's like
that's
a
interesting.
softer pad, like an animal. I mean, and that's why my collar is covered in fur. One of the main reasons is that's banging on brush, making
Yeah.
sound. I mean, scent around here, you can play the wind. I mean, I'm a cigar smoker, and I've shot many coyotes smoking a cigar on stand. People just think it's ridiculous. I do it
Yeah.
just basically to bug people.
Yeah.
But yeah, sound and stealth has got to play a huge thing because you're getting in their bubble
Yeah.
all the time.
Yep. I can see that.
Mhm.
Um, what what do you shoot for a rifle and what's your thermal setup and whatnot?
So I actually got a bunch of stuff. Actually, I got my new setup right there. Um, I'm shooting 6 millimeter Creedmoors at night. I was shooting the Ruger Precision, the bench guns,
Yep.
and then I had the realization here about a month ago that I am too old to be carrying around a 17-pound rifle. So I just picked up a Ruger American Gen 2 and a 6 millimeter Creedmoor, and I've got the IRA Bolt 60 on that.
Yep.
And then I've got a 22 250 backup gun that's got an IRA Bolt 50 on it, and that's my but night gun. I'm running 6 millimeter, and the reason we run the 6 millimeter and not everything we do is 22 to 50 mostly around here. but
Yeah.
at night we call it phantom grass. So when you're looking through your thermal, you can't see grass and fine brush. And
Yep.
the 22-250s are just too light. We get too much deflections. They were shooting through grass we didn't see.
Yep.
We stepped up to 243s and 6 millimeters, shooting like those 87 grain B maxes,
Yep.
just to prevent that deflection. Now during the day, I'm running 22-250. Because I
Yep.
still say the hydrostatic shock of a 22-250, and it's just deadly. It's just a
Yeah.
coyote gun. I mean,
Agreed.
yeah, they've got the 22 arc now.
Yep.
And like I always, my opinion on that is they're basically you're just trying to get 22-250 performance out of a AR.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I just started shooting a 243 also.
mhm.
And I had Ruger American Gen 2 that I started it on and just put
Yeah.
it on a chassis. And I actually run the Bolt 60 also. So
Yeah.
real similar setup there.
Yeah. And I had a lot, I've got a whole plethora of, Sacos and Brigadas, and I got all kinds of crazy rifles and precisions and Axis 2 precisions and all this stupid stuff. And these Ruger Americans, they shoot great, they're
Yep.
light, they're affordable, and
Yep.
you beat them up, it's not the end of the world, you
Yep.
know. I mean, I took this one and we used the laser locators for aftershock.
Yep.
I just ran 2 screws right into the stock. I'm like, whatever, it's just a blow molded stock.
Yeah.
You gotta love the Ruger American. It's just a working man's gun. It really is.
Yeah. Agreed. And I've been very impressed with the groups I
Oh,
shot with it. I worked up a really good 80 grain ELD VT load with
mhm.
it. And I shot the first dog with it just the other day and just stiff legged and flipped right over. And
Yeah. I haven't had a chance to use that ELDT VT bullet yet, but I've just heard great things about it. I mean, I guess
yeah,
the fragmentation is just wildly impressive.
yeah, I'm excited. I'm gonna run it for the rest of the year, and just see, see how it works. And yeah, I mean, so far 1 for 1, it was all good. So we'll see.
Yeah, I've had good luck with the six Creta 87 VMAX. Shot placement is key, of course.
Yep.
Then at night, I'm running a Fat Boy tripod. I finally broke down and got the Fat Boy, and I tell you what, I'll never go back. That thing is so stable. I mean,
Yep.
I've got night snipes. I've got tripods stacked up in the garage like idiot. And then during the day, I'm running swaggers.
Yep.
In fact, I
Me
was so
too.
proud of myself. I had surgery on my hand. I actually was able to shoot one-handed off the swaggers. I was pretty impressed with myself.
Nice. That's
So,
funny.
mhm.
Um, okay, so I there's a thing called fan mail that I get occasionally where people can click send a text from my podcast and they'll send a text and it will text me a question basically,
Mhm.
but I'm not able to respond to them. So those of you who have sent them in to me, I apologize that I am not able to respond. There's no way for me to respond. So we talked about this beforehand. I'm
Mhm.
gonna answer I'm gonna watch, or I'm gonna ask these questions that I've gotten, and we can help you guys out. So if you guys have been asking these questions, I apologize for the delay, but I have no way to answer these. So if you want to ask me questions and want me to answer them, you just got to send me them on Instagram or Facebook or something. But Instagram is probably the best place, and I usually get back to people really quick. So anyways, one of them is looking for some help to decide if I should buy a Fox Pro X24 or get the MFK edition X24. Hundred some dollars more. Could you give me some advice on this? And as someone who runs a bunch of MFK sounds, I figured this would be a perfect question for John to answer for you.
Looking back, I wish I would have went with the MFK edition, just because I think I've spent well over $100 just adding MFK sounds.
Right.
I really think because the MFK edition comes loaded with a lot of the factory sounds, and then of course all the MFK sounds. And I'm telling you, dealing with Tori and Tori Cook, the Cook family, and MFK, it's just phenomenal. I mean, the
Yeah.
customer service is great. I mean, it's just I would go with the MFK. I really would edition.
Yeah. I'm gonna agree. The only thing I would say is if you really are pressing on a budget, I would say get the X24. Those sounds are fine. The stock Fox Pro library works fine. The and then maybe you could just pick up a few sounds here and there, and get yourself worked into those MFK sounds. Maybe start with, a 4 or 5 of the popular ones or whatever. But, yeah, if you have the funds and can just go for the MFK edition right away, I would think, that would be the best option.
Yeah, and then the sounds that he preloads on are, I mean, they're handpicked. They're just great. They really are.
Yep. Okay, here's another one. These ones are most of these people are up in more northern Wisconsin too, so
That's kind of similar to what we're dealing with, though.
yeah.
Heavy timber, hilly, you know,
Okay,
running all over.
this one's a little more lengthy. I'll read it to you. Okay, this guy said he's a first time dog hunter. Can you give me a winter, January, February, early March calling sequence that won't feel or seem unnatural to that time period? Coyotes seem to run around here in cycles. They show up randomly, mostly at night, then gone for a week or two. Then I hear them again at night. Do they have a bigger range that time of year, or are they just following the food and mating rituals? I have a spring hole 500 yards from the house, and every animal uses this spring hole. So, um, I guess my take on that first is I think right now is the time of year, as John talked about earlier. I think that we both discussed this, but I think right now is the time of year where they have a smaller
Mm-hmm.
territory or traveling a little less. But I would say, my only follow up question would be: are you going off of pictures or hearing them? I'm not sure. I'm sure I would guess they're probably there more than you think they are
Mm-hmm.
there. But what do you think of that question?
Well, that was the same thing. Okay, is it pictures or sound? Because say he's only hearing them every 5 days. Well, maybe they only had a reason to howl every 5 days. If
Right,
coyotes don't have a reason to howl and bicker with each other, they won't. They hunt off stealth. They live off stealth. The only
right.
reason they howl is to either warn or fight or attract other coyotes. So, as far as his calling sequence, God, it's so hard to say with a particular situation, but the basic standard calling sequence for the heavy timber would be start yourself out with a prey distress, start off squeaky, start off at about 15, say your color goes to 40. Start off about 15 with a squeaky, run a squeaky for 2, 3 minutes, switch it up to a rabbit, bring your volume up to about 20, and actually run your call about 10 minutes on these prey. Let that set. That'll tell you if you have anything within that bubble. And then once you've, as we said, I said before, clear the area, as we call it, you've just go into your howls. Just give one lone, nasty, sharp howl, and then just sit for 3, 4 minutes. Listen. Because sometimes in this timber, it takes them a while to answer back.
Yeah,
And then play it by there. So if you get an answer back, we'll start an argument with them, start challenging them, start fighting them. So go from your quiet prey, quiet squeaky prey, loud rabbit, mean prey, into a howl, give it a pause, and then if you get an answer back or whatever else, start with the fight sequences and
yep,
finish. And you're always finishing with a pup in distress. I
yep.
mean, I think more coyotes have died to pup number 3 or pup pound than anything else in the
Yeah,
world. And
I'd agree.
that's just a nice, basic, simple sequence. And in the timber, run it out half an hour. I know everybody you watch on YouTube says 10-minute stands is all you need. Well, in the timber, they're stocky and they're slow. So
Yeah,
give it time.
yep,
You're not going to make as many stands that will affect your numbers. If you're tournament hunting, you're going to lose.
right,
So, yeah,
yep,
that's my basic sequence.
yep. I'd agree with that. I'm not sure who answered or who asked me the question. But if you are hearing this, feel free to send me a message on Instagram. If you want, more of a detailed sequence, because I don't know if you're running a Fox Pro, a Lucky Duck,
Yeah.
Icotech, whatever it is. I don't know. So
Well,
if you need more of a lucky duck sequence or whatever, let me know and I'll be happy to help.
I'll give out my secret sequence. It's called go to.
There you go.
So my go to is cagey cottontail or cocktail sauce, sexy little bee, female soar howl, foxborough yodel howl, back to female soar howl, and then I'll actually run rabbit, baby cottontail, just as a filler.
Yep.
And then we get into it's greeting wines,
Yep.
submissive beggar, and then pound town or table scraps. That's my just random. We don't know what's going on here sequence.
Yep.
In and out.
Gotcha.
But I always feel I should say it when I let those howls go out and I'm waiting those 3 or 4 minutes, I've always got a spray distress going like on 10, just going. And the reason I do that is if I'm not paying attention and there's a coyote slinking up through the tree line I haven't seen, there's something to keep that coyote going while I'm gawking off at the stars waiting for a coyote to haul back.
Yeah.
Because that seems to happen more than a lot.
Yep. Yep, I totally agree. Those are all good good tips and good sounds. Yeah, so like I said, if you guys are ever have questions, the doing the send a text thing on my podcast links are not I do see them, but I don't I'm not able to respond to them. So believe it or not, I get some non-fan mail too. So those are ones I'm happy to not respond to. But
Oh, you were a savage, big meanie. Are you a
yeah,
big meanie?
not, I like to think not, but
I get them too.
yeah.
When
So
I was an outfitter, I actually got hate mail for catching fish
oh,
because we're putting
nice.
hooks in their mouth.
Ah, yeah,
So
that's
you're gonna get
pretty
it.
rude. Yep. Yep. No, they don't bother me. Anyways, but yeah. So any other tips and tricks or anything you want to share?
Tips, tricks to share is locate and just take the time. A lot of guys now just want to hurry up, get out there and do it. And a lot of that, I think, comes from the whole Western mentality.
Yeah.
Bang, 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 go fast,
Hammer
cover,
stands. Yep.
which makes sense out there. 100%. That's going to
Yep.
give you your numbers. Here, take your time. In the heavy timber, take your time. Make sure you know what you're doing. Focus on the wind. Focus on your approach. It's really a thinking game when it comes to the heavy timber. You really got to outsmart them because they have so many advantages over you.
Yep.
I mean, guys that don't know the joke can Google it. We'll keep it PG, but it all boils down to old bull, young bull. It really does. You just take your time. You'll get them all.
Yep. Yep. No, I like it. And I agree. And I think like overall I'm in the same boat. Like I'm a lot of like 20, 30-minute stands. Just seems like seems like I'm in the same. I mean, we're in a lot more open stuff though. So sometimes I'm in a spot where I can see a lot and I'm like, oh, there's nothing coming. Like sometimes I just know like I can see far enough and that there's just nothing coming. But yeah, it's interesting hearing different perspectives and all the different ways to hunt them and kill them. That's what I think is so fun
Oh, yeah.
about coyotes. Like you could put a food plot anywhere in the country and deer will come to it. But sorry, if there's deer there, they'll come to it.
Yeah, right. Deer hoping, I
Uh,
call it.
yes,
Just hoping one walks by.
exactly. But there's coyotes just in such different ways and styles and the thing is they all work usually at some extent, but
Yeah.
some just find a way to do it better than others and guys like you that I like to hear from. So
Yeah, and it's what I do is very unique. It really is.
yeah, it is.
It is, and what I love about this country though is, we got coyotes, of course, we got timber wolves, which granted it can be frustrating, still super cool.
Right.
I mean, I know it probably doesn't sound cool, but when all of a sudden you look up and you got 3 timber wolves circling you. I mean, yeah, it's a little scary, but it's kind of cool when you really think about how coordinated they are. And we got
Yeah.
red fox, we got gray fox, we got just bobcats. I mean, it's just you're not just hunting coyotes when you're up here.
Target rich environment.
Yeah, it's very target rich, and it's all everything's a surprise, whether where they're going to show up or what's going to show up, or it's just a lot of fun.
Right.
It's a
Yeah, that's
lot of
awesome.
fun. I mean, I've been doing it for 30 years now, and I can't seem to quit. So
yeah, it doesn't seem like you're gonna quit either. So
no, I don't think so. Eventually, I'll probably just have a stroke out there one day, and that'll be the end of it.
yeah, it'll be
Oh
negative
well.
20. All right, John. Well, I really appreciate the time, and this was fun. I learned a lot, and just really good time talking with you.
Yeah, and like I said, I really enjoy all the podcasts too because I get like to learn from outside the timber.
Yeah,
So,
for sure.
Good exchange of information.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, and thanks for coming on with me.
You bet.
And before we go, you should tell people where they can find you and give you a follow and see what you're up to.
I'm kind of low key after being an outfitter for so many years, but my Instagram is north_mn_yoder.
Got it.
And then it's just Johnny Petrowske on Facebook.
Yep.
So, just look for the Northern Lights, infamous Northern Lights coyote shot.
Yeah, there you go.
Which that was a pretty cool evening.
That was a cool picture too.
Yeah, well, it was crazy. The Northern Lights was so loud that night you could hear them.
Dang.
It was cool. It was cool.
Awesome. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, thanks for the time, and I'll let you get back to your day.
All right. Thank you. Later.
Yep. See ya. All right, guys. Big thanks to John for joining me. That was an awesome episode for all you guys in the Northwoods. I think that'll be a big help. I know some of the questions that I've gotten over the past couple of years, that a lot of those things seemed like they would be helpful for you guys. So hopefully those of you guys who have asked me those questions and I didn't give you very good answers, hopefully those helped you out. Find John's Instagram in the description below. You guys can give him a follow, especially you Northwoods guys. He's an awesome guy. So check it out. And if you guys aren't yet, check out in the description below. Guys can join my Facebook group. Kind of more posting more immediate content on there. Like if I'm out hunting, I might post stuff on there. Place for me to interact with you guys, and just all around, place for us coyote hunters to kind of unite. So I love seeing everybody's posts. Don't be afraid to post anything. I'm the moderator, so I see everything, and if sometimes things pop up in spam, I will approve them usually, as long as they're fitting. But yeah, so join the Facebook group, Predator Podcast. I believe it's in the description below also. And if you guys have questions, as I mentioned in the episode, find my Instagram, Predator Podcast _Drew. Give me a follow. I'm happy to help out and give you guys any advice and tips that I can when I have them. So if you guys have questions, find me on Instagram, ask me your questions over there, and I'll be happy to help. So we'll be back next week for another episode of the Predator Podcast. And until then, shoot straight.